All right, you know what? Let's get into some facts here, okay? Let's get into some cold, hard facts. Because the left-wing media wants to create this narrative out there that this woman was an innocent bystander, that the police went into the wrong apartment and she was asleep in bed and riddled with bullets. Look, God bless Breonna Taylor, okay? No one should be killed in a police shootout, and I don't wish that on anyone. But let me give you some straight facts, okay? I was talking to a great friend of mine last night who's really in tune with the news, and he said it's really a shame that they went in the wrong apartment. They didn't go in the wrong apartment. They went in the right apartment, okay? People were saying that the wrong person was in the apartment because they were after her previous boyfriend, who was a drug dealer and in custody, but it was the same house where police believe it was being used as a drop for drug transactions. So they didn't go into the wrong apartment. Breonna Taylor was not in bed. Breonna Taylor was in a hallway when the shots were fired. The police knocked on the door, according to police reports, and now a grand jury obviously believed that, and announced it was the police, and they were met with gunfire. And when police believe that their life is endangered, they can use deadly force back. So those are just some facts. But to get into the whole mental side of this, not just how the left is trying to program us to believe one narrative that causes riots, just the excessive force in that, we bring in one of the best experts around right now. Carole Lieberman joins us. She's an MD, she's an MPH, she's a board-certified psychiatrist. And Carole, I know you do a lot of testifying as an expert in cases of excessive use of force and stuff. I'm giving my opinion based on facts that I have read. But it seems like the grand jury, who can, as they say, indict a ham sandwich, believe the cops that they believe their life was in danger.
Well, this is a case where instead of jumping to conclusions like Pavlov's dogs and protesting, you have to ask whose fault was it anyway? And there is enough blame to go around, and it doesn't really necessarily fall on the cops, although I will admit that the one cop who they did charge, Hankerson, he was, you talk about that there are a few bad apples in the police force, and they should be gotten rid of, and that's it, and not be defunded. And he seems to be like one of those bad apples. I mean, his excuse was, I was just following orders, which is what the guards said in the Holocaust. So I don't have much sympathy for him. But there's enough blame to go around, notably her boyfriend, her current boyfriend who was in there, who shot off his gun. Her ex-boyfriend, I mean, you could kind of blame Breonna in the sense that she picked her previous boyfriend, who was a drug dealer. But that's about as much blame as you can put on her, I think. Then there's the judge who wrote the warrant, the no-knock warrant. Then really this thing that hasn't really come out, it was in a story by the New York Times, but I'm sure you know that once she was shot, she didn't get medical help until 20 minutes later. So what's that about, and who can we blame for that?
Well, sure, as you said, there was, a literal tempest in a teapot here of bad circumstances. There's no doubt about that, right? But a cop is serving a warrant, they're met with gunfire. I can understand, my dad was a cop, and I can understand cops believing, wow, that shot could have killed me, and no one even, cared about that, so I'm going to start firing. That I can understand. But, picking a bad boyfriend, I agree with you on that also. But there's all this narrative that the news has created that this was this perfect young lady who was an EMT. She was helping the community. She was asleep in bed, and the cops broke in the wrong apartment. That's all fake. She was fired as an EMT because a car that she owned and was being used by her previous boyfriend was found with a dead body in it. So she was fired as an EMT for having a dead body found in her car. So it's not like she was delivering Girl Scout cookies either. So, when there's blame, and the guy who fired 11 shots into the other apartment and everything, maybe he has PTSD. Maybe he's run his course as a police officer because his training, he didn't go with his training. And I can understand, what they call it, wanton disregard for safety or something like that. I get it. But and I know she wasn't guilty of any crime, but if you're harboring a person in your house who is committing crime, then you're kind of opening yourself up to this.
But I don't think it was the current boyfriend who was still committing crimes. I mean, I don't actually know his...
No, I think you're right about that.
But that's a very interesting thing that you said. I haven't read or heard that anywhere, that she was fired because a dead body was, that's the kind of thing. Why isn't that out there all over the place? Of course, another thing that's not really out there as much as it should be, it's out there, but the protesters aren't really paying attention to it. The family, the mother, sued the city for wrongful death, and she got $12 million. Now, I'm not saying that makes it okay that Breonna was shot and killed, but, the protesters, you don't hear much about that.
Right. And when you start talking about where's the blame for the extra shots and all this other stuff, to me that's civil litigation. And even the civil litigation resulted in double-digit millions to the family. That doesn't bring back your loved one. But the court system on the civil side has already said these guys did something wrong and we're going to pay you for it. So in our last minute here, tell me this. Do you think the media is fomenting these riots by putting forth not the whole story to people?
Yes, I do. This has been just an epidemic of riots. I mean, really, I think it's more dangerous and more destructive to America than coronavirus. And yes, I think, the way the pictures that are shown and the way the narrative is and these things that we've been talking about that have been hidden, of course they're going to, and even just showing one riot in one city, which then makes other riots pop up at other places. People think, oh, well, they're doing it. We have to have our own riot. So, yes, I absolutely do. And the point of all this is to try to get people to be angry at Trump to not elect him again, which I think, and I hope certainly, it is having the opposite effect.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money on that one, Doc. It sure seems to me that it was really questionable about suburban women, how they were going to vote, and these riots and these outbreaks of unrest have really caused people, I think, women to look inside themselves to their innate humanness and say, I want safety for my kids. And I think it's had a positive effect on getting more people who may have been wishy-washy on Trump to actually say, I got to go vote for him because we need cops.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Carole Lieberman, thank you so much for joining us. We have to have you back. You were fantastic. She's a MD, MPH, board-certified psychiatrist, and she's first time on Liquid Lunch. Thanks for joining us.